Hey, good afternoon. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I was trying to make sure it was recording. I believe it is. Can someone on my team just verify that it's recording before we get too far into everything? Um,
Yes, you're all good.
all right, cool. When I opened up the section, it said record and transcribe, so I was a little concerned. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Sarbuck. I'm the Chief of the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. I oversee the programs that we provide here within this office, specific to registered apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, um, as well as our Opportunity Partnership Grant Program and our Fellowship Grant Program and our Upskill Grant Program. Today, we're here to talk about our FY26 Growing Apprenticeship in Non-Traditional Sectors Round 1 Technical Assistance Workshop. The GAINS program is a program that the department is very proud of. We're happy to continue funding it. It has been a very successful program over the years, um, and we ultimately hope to have some of you participate as we move forward with this funding stream and try to assist additional um, residents of New Jersey to find employment here in New Jersey and to get that gainful employment through utilizing the registered apprenticeship model. So with that in mind, welcome. We're, as I said, excited to get into things. I'm here with my colleagues, Tammy Radigan, Al Nixon, Lauren Kremper DiFilippo, and Heather Wilson. Some of them will be presenting some information to you guys during this presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to them and we'll get started. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to having a successful presentation.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start off the presentation. My name is Tammy Radigan, and I'm a contract administrator here with the Office of Registered Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. So the first thing that we're going to start with is just going to be an overview of our office and what registered apprenticeship is. Next slide, please. So in March of 2018, Governor Murphy announced the development of the first Office of Apprenticeship in New Jersey, as well as the creation of the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network. Next slide. The overall mission in creating our office is to build the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network, which is accomplished by the Office of Apprenticeship working closely with USDOL and serving as the one-stop shop for employers, nonprofits, secondary and post-secondary institutions interested in developing apprenticeship opportunities. It's accomplished by supporting new and expanding upon existing pre-apprenticeship and USDOL registered apprenticeship programs within New Jersey. It's accomplished by establishing pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in non-traditional high-growth occupations and sectors. It's accomplished by better aligning post-secondary, adult education, and occupational training to meet labor demands unique to New Jersey and develop career pathways that lead to economically sustainable wages. It's also accomplished by helping apprentices earn college credits, access robust career counseling, and increasing diversity and inclusion in apprenticeship programs. And lastly, it's accomplished by removing economic barriers to training and upskilling through targeted investments. Next slide, please.
Tammy, I'm
So
just going to
what
hold
is,
you up on for 1 second. We're getting some people that say they're getting echo. A lot of times when you're getting echo, it's because if you're in a room with others that are on the same presentation. Other times it could be if you are like have your cell phone close by and you're utilizing your cell phone for something in here as well. It's sometimes easier for you to not have the sound working here through the Teams meeting on your computer and to call in and have the sound go through your computer. You will have to mute the sound on one, and that will hopefully help with eliminating your echo, but I can't promise you anything. Sometimes you got to go out and come back in as well. Sorry, Tammy.
oh, that's okay. Thanks, Bill. Okay, so what is registered apprenticeship? So the definition under the Code of Federal Regulations 29.6 is Registered apprenticeship program means registered and approved by USDOL and provides classroom and on-the-job training in an occupation recognized as an apprenticeable trade and meets the program standards of enrollment and graduation. So registered apprenticeship, it's essentially a type of training model that works in conjunction with employment, where apprentices are earning while they're learning the necessary skills for the trade. The USDOL, provides the approval of the registered apprenticeship program, similar to how accreditation works for a degree program in a college. And what this does is it helps to ensure that the skills and the training that the apprentice receives is consistent for national application in employment for that particular occupation. Next slide, please. So registered apprenticeship programs consist of 5 main components. You have the employer or the industry involvement. So when you're developing a program, input from employers and industry leaders is used to help guide the training outline for that occupation. As a result, the program structure is then uniform with any organization who adopts that outline for the development of their own registered apprenticeship program. You, of course, have the related technical instruction. So just like most training programs, registered apprenticeship consists of classroom learning to teach fundamentals and advanced skills for that occupation. There's the sponsor and employer component for the on-the-job learning aspect of the program. And the on-the-job training is the employment portion of registered apprenticeship programs. And it's utilized to reinforce the classroom learning by presenting real-world scenarios for apprentices to apply the skills that they've learned in the classrooms. Of course, you have the apprentices that are part of the program. And then finally, there's a progressive wage structure for skills gains. This is a component USDOL helps sponsors to determine when they're approving the programs. And what it helps to do is it incentivizes apprentices to learn to develop their skills while also fostering that employer and employee relationship. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of registered apprenticeship? For the employer, registered apprenticeship reduces overall turnover in the company. It does this not only by providing adequate training to new employees, but also by creating an environment that supports career growth, where the employer is often viewed as investing in their employees. There's an increase in worker productivity as a result of the supportive environment and also due to that progressive wage structure that incentivizes apprentices to learn more and develop their skills. It helps to build a company's skills base by standardizing the training and training apprentices to meet the company needs. It helps to create a pipeline of skilled workers and therefore assist with succession planning as apprentices advance with higher skills. And lastly, it establishes quality standards by providing consistent training to each apprentice in the program, thus ensuring all the necessary job skills are learned for that trade. What are the benefits for the apprentice? So the apprentices receive hands-on career training, which strengthens their abilities in addition to receiving employment while they're learning. Registered apprenticeship aids in developing relationships with employers, so it enables apprentices to connect with employers and receive the learning support that they need and to holistically learn the trade. It helps their future earnings potential by developing advanced skills. And lastly, it provides apprentices with a portable national credential that is recognized industry-wide. Next slide, please. Registered apprenticeship consists of 2 different models. The first model is the traditional employer model. This is where an employer becomes a sponsor of the program, meaning that they're responsible for the implementation, oversight, and the reporting of the program. USDOL helps the employer to become a sponsor by assisting with program development and registration. The New Jersey Office of Apprenticeship can also be a partner by providing grant funding to help offset costs often associated with starting a program. The employer as a sponsor also collaborates with training providers to determine the related technical instruction elements of the program. And then the employer, of course, is also responsible for the recruitment and the hiring of the apprentices, in addition to administering the on-the-job training. Next slide. The second model is the workforce intermediary model. So all the same elements of the traditional model still exist. The difference is that the sponsor collaborates with multiple employers under their sponsorship. So an example of this would be a trade union. The union holds the sponsorship for that occupation, and they have multiple employers associated with the union who employ the apprentices and adopt the training model under the union's registered apprenticeship program. As a sponsor, the union will be responsible for all the same elements in the traditional model, meaning that implementation, registering, program oversight, reporting. but employers who join their program for the OJT part of the training don't have to go through a separate process to create their own programs. Rather, it's simpler. It's basically just creating a letter of agreement that they'll adopt the existing model under that sponsorship. Next slide, please. So here's a quick overview of the accomplishments of registered apprenticeship in New Jersey. So our current figures. Currently, there are 10,387 active apprentices in the state. That's from 6,783. There are 1,539 total registered programs in the state from 611. Since Governor Murphy took office in January of 2018, New Jersey has registered 928 new programs, which is a 152% statewide increase. There have been 25,928 new apprentices hired, 12,538 new industry-recognized certificates of completion issued. According to the data from the last quarter for 2017, net apprentices increased by approximately 3,604 from 6,783, which is a statewide moving average that includes entrances and exits. And this growth trend accounts for a 53% net increase statewide of active apprentices. Next slide. Okay, so that was an overview of our office and registered apprenticeship. I'm going to hand over the presentation to Al Nixon now, and he's going to go over the specifics of the Gaines grant.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tammy. My name is Al Nixon, and I am actually the Gaines Grant Administrator too. So if you are awarded this grant, you'll be working with me through the life of the grant with any questions or problems or concerns throughout the period of the grant. So welcome to the overview today. The Growing Apprenticeships in Non-Traditional Sector or GAINS program. The mission of the GAINS program is to increase the statewide capacity for registered apprenticeship opportunities. We achieve this by offsetting training and education costs for businesses operating within high-growth industry clusters. The key component of the GAINS program is its commitment to promoting diversity and inclusion. We encourage recruitment of apprentices from specific target population, including DBRS qualified candidates and persons with disabilities, dislocated workers, women, members of minority groups, youth, including out-of-school youth, youth in the foster system, or those aging out of the foster system, county vocational school participants, and K through 12 public school students, post-secondary students, ex-offenders, veterans, individuals currently unemployed or long-term unemployed, displaced homemakers, homeless individuals, single parents, WIOA eligible individuals, and other underrepresented population. Our goal is to create a more diverse and inclusive workforce by encouraging recruiting from these specific groups. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's focus on the high growth sector industry, or high growth sectors targeted by the GAINS program. Our initiative is designed to establish new and expanded existing registered apprenticeship programs in the following sectors: advanced manufacturing, biopharma, life sciences, energy, utilities and infrastructure, retail, hospitality and tourism, financial services and insurance, transportation, logistics and distribution, information technologies and cybersecurity, green jobs, renewable energy, healthcare, construction and building trades, public service, educational services, early childhood education, and other technology and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or STEM-related sectors. For FY26 Round 1, we anticipate the funding availability of $5 million contingent upon funding availability. Contracts are expected to last for an 18-month period. Next slide. Okay, highlights of the GAINS program. Let's go over some of the key requirements for a successful application. Eligible entity applicant. Ensure that your organization is an eligible entity with a New Jersey presence. A full list of eligible entities can be found on page 9 to 10 of the Notice of Grant Opportunity. Program development. You must be starting a new registered apprenticeship program or expanding an existing one in an apprenticeable occupation. A full list of occupations is available on our website. And when you receive a copy of this PowerPoint, there will be a hyperlink there where you will be able to just click to go to that site. USDOL contact, sorry. You must provide evidence of contact with the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship for program development and registration. A directory for USDOL apprenticeship training representatives will be provided to assist you. New Jersey project. All parties involved in your grant proposal must have a New Jersey presence or be a resident of New Jersey. This includes partnerships with employers as well as the apprentices that you plan to enroll in your program. Next slide. Funding incentives and expectations. We'll discuss the funding incentives and expectations associated with the GAINS program. The first incentive is the OJT, or on-the-job training wage support. We offer a 50% wage reimbursement, but the wage cannot be below $18 an hour at the date of hire. The reimbursement is limited to 40 hours per week for 52 weeks. The maximum OJT training reimbursement is $12,000 per apprentice. And note that only regular wages are reimbursable. That means that no PTO, vacation time, sick time, holiday pay, or overtime is included in the OJT reimbursement. If funded, payroll records will be required to support the wage reimbursement claims. The next incentive that we would be able to assist with is the related technical instruction, RTI, support. It's reimbursable only once the apprentice has been registered with the USDOL and has started the class. The wage rate, again, cannot be below $18 an hour from the date of hire for the apprentice. Funds can be used to offset the RTI related costs. It's important to note that front-loaded RTI is not permissible under this grant. Front-loaded RTI would be where the training has to occur before employment can start. So with the GAINS program, it's earn while you learn. So your training and your on-the-job training or employment would run with each other. You cannot have the RTI or the training happen first, get the credential, and then start the apprenticeship. It has to be together simultaneously. Expectations for funding and sustainability. Programs in the first class of apprentices are expected to be registered with the USDOL within the first 6 months of the anticipated 18-month contract period. New Jersey Department of Labor funding is seed money, and a sustainability plan is required to outline the resources in place to continue the registered apprenticeship program beyond the funding period. The maximum allowance cost per apprentice is $12,000. We say that the max OJT is $12,000 because that is the maximum cost for an apprentice on the grant is $12,000. So if your grant only consists of the OJT reimbursement and no training support, you could go up to $12,000. If you are going to charge the grant for RTI, OJT, and administrative costs, combined for the number of apprentices that you have, divided, or the total cost that you're asking for your budget, divided by the total number of apprentices, must be $12,000 or less. That would be the total cost per participant on the grant. Next slide, please. Favorable scoring elements. To maximize the competitiveness of your application, consider the following favorable scoring elements. Large enrollment of individuals to be served, or small businesses with fewer than 50 employees. It's mentioned on page 15 of the NGO. Plan to employ new hires over incumbent workers. It's detailed on page 12 of the NGO. Recruit apprentices from one or more of the target population outlined in the Notice of Grant Opportunity on page 13. Develop a program with one or more of the targeted industry clusters, which you can find details for that on page 5 of the NGO. Create a cost structure that illustrates a level of non-state funded investment in your project as outlined on page 17 of the NGO. Provide detailed information regarding program registration status with the USDOL, the length of the apprenticeship program, partnerships with RTI providers, administration of RTI, partnerships with employers, structure of OJT, progressive wage schedules for the apprentice, as mentioned on page 14 of the NGO. Ensure your proposal offers specific and measurable outcomes that align with the NGO and sponsor goals and objectives. This is detailed on page 15 of the NGO. Next slide. Okay, now for the application process and some important information about the Gaines Grant, I'm going to turn it back over to Bill.
Thanks, Al. Couple pieces of information I want to make sure I reiterate on what Al just went over and Tammy went over as well. One thing to keep in mind, the applicants for this grant, any Gaines Grant applicant, should be the sponsoring agency of the Registered Apprenticeship Program with the United States Department of Labor. If you are not the sponsoring agent and you are not going to be the one who's running your program through USDOL and entering all the data into the RAPIDS database, you would not be the applicant for this grant. Secondly, when we say $12,000 per participant, it's clear as it's that. There is no additional funding. If you're going to serve 10 participants, the maximum allowable grant request is $120,000. It's just do the math simply that way. However many registered apprentices you're going to provide training to, and you're going to state that number on your deliverables page of your application, multiply that by 12,000. That's the max you can ask for. You can ask for less than that, but you cannot ask for any more than that. If you do, it will negatively impact your ability to get the grant, possibly even eliminate you from being considered for the grant. This is going to be a very competitive grant application. As I said, we had 100 individuals registered to attend today, and we only have $5 million available. That $5 million is going to go very quickly. I anticipate having anywhere from 30 to 40 applications that are submitted, and probably somewhere between 15 and $20 million worth of funding requested. So with that all in mind, just keep that all as information for you, and hopefully that will help you with putting your applications together. From this point forward now, I'm going to talk about the application process and information that you need to understand and know either before you've started your applications or what you should be working on once you have determined that you are interested in applying for the grant. Next slide. So the first steps, if you're considering applying for the Gaines grant, are to ensure that you're an eligible entity to apply. You can find information on who the eligible entities are on pages 9 and 10 of the Notice of Grant Opportunity. The next two steps are kind of simultaneous. The authorized official, who is also the person who's got the ability to sign off on contract, and is basically the chief officer for your organization, must register in our IGX database. The IGX database we're going to talk about a little more in the next couple minutes, but ultimately, if you've already registered there or they're already registered there, this step is something that can be ignored. If they're not, they need to get registered in IGX. Once you've completed the registration, you also need to submit the letter of intent via email, which we'll talk about on the next slide. That letter of intent is what tells us that you're interested in applying for the grant. It also is what tells us that you have registered if you're a new user of the IGX database. We will not know to go and check and see if you've applied to have access to IGX until you submit that letter of intent. So complete that registration and submit that letter of intent simultaneously. Without doing them simultaneously, or at least very closely timed together, there is a chance that you might think that there's something wrong because the IGX database isn't allowing you to get in. And if you don't submit that letter of intent, we're not going to know to go in and try and approve you. Then what we would then do once we get that letter of intent is approve that AO, that authorized official, in our IGX database and provide you access to the application. When we provide you access to the application, we're going to provide you with a user guide on how to complete the application and a bunch of additional information. We'll also confirm with you what your username is in the IGX database so that there's no confusion when you go to log in. These next two things are very important because ultimately, if you wait to get this stuff done, sometimes it causes problems later on. So this first bullet, obtain a tax clearance certificate from New Jersey Division of Taxation. You can find information about this on pages 21 and 26 of the Notice of Grant Opportunity. This is a state law. State law requires that tax clearance certificates are provided for any state-funded grant programs. That tax clearance certificate is what notifies us that you don't currently have any liabilities to any state government entities related to taxes. Ultimately, this can take a day or two, but it could also take 3 to 4 weeks. So you really don't want to wait to get this stuff done. It's good for 6 months. So if you've received one within the last 6 months, you can use that to submit, but it has to be within 6 months of the due date of the application. So if the application's due November 15th, then ultimately it has to be 6 months within that November 15th date. But make sure you get that started right away with taxation because it could take a little bit of time to get your tax clearance certificate. Every time we do one of these grants, somebody comes to us and says, I'm having trouble getting my tax clearance. I've been trying to do it. That's why we tell you right now, don't wait. Try and get it as soon as you can. And the last thing that we have here is to register with the New Jersey Department of Treasury through the NJ Start database. This is what allows for you to get paid if you receive funding. If you're already registered with NJ Start, check and make sure that you know what vendor ID number you're going to utilize for this grant so that we can ensure if we do fund you that the funding is set up properly and the money that you're going to receive for this grant is sent to you the way you want it sent. You set up everything in NJ Start yourselves, and ultimately you can have multiple accounts in NJ Start or multiple vendor ID numbers. We just need to know which vendor ID number it is that you're going to utilize. We do have a database that works with the Treasury Department's database to tell us what all of those vendor ID numbers are. We just choose from the list, and with your information, we will choose the one that you tell us. So please get in touch with actually log into your NJ Start account, check and make sure everything looks good and up to date. If anything needs to be updated, update it, and make sure you're aware when we reach out to you what vendor ID number you would like us to use if you are awarded funding. Next slide. This is just a screenshot of what the letter of intent looks like. This is also within the Notice of Grant Opportunity. You'll utilize this template in order to provide the letter of intent to us. You'll complete it as per the information that it requests in the middle here. The authorized official will sign and date it, and then you'll email it to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address listed at the bottom of the document. Like I said, this letter of intent is what tells us that you're interested in applying for the grant. It also is what tells us all the information we need in order to check our database and see if you're registered in there. So please make sure you get these in timely, and please make sure that you complete them accurately so that there's no confusion. Sometimes when you send it in and maybe your organization name is typed differently here than it is in the IGX database, we may have some confusion and we may reach out to you with questions that slow down our ability to give you access to the application. All that stuff to take into consideration. The other thing that's very important for you to concentrate on, excuse me, is that once you complete this, you have to put it on your organization's letterhead. So you'll copy and paste all of the details that are on this this letter of intent onto your organization's letterhead, then have it signed and dated and email it into us. Next slide. All right, applicant eligibility. To be eligible for a grant, applicants must be in full compliance with all laws enforced by NJDOL. The applicant may not have any outstanding unpaid liabilities to NJDOL, including but not limited to any unpaid contributions to the Unemployment Compensation Fund or the State Disability Benefits Fund, worker wage tax collections, penalties, fees, or interest due to the department pursuant to a final order issued under any statutes or rules that NJDOL enforces. You cannot be on the NJDOL debarment or public contracting prohibition lists, and you cannot be suspended or revoked. You cannot have any suspended or revoked NJDOL licenses, certificates, or registrations. Applicants should promptly contact NJDOL or the relevant division to resolve any outstanding liabilities or issues that could affect their eligibility before applying to avoid delays. At the end of the day, we cross-check all applicants against these records. We have an Office of Securities that we provide all of your FEIN numbers to. They check and balance it against databases that provide them with knowledge if there are any issues, and if there are issues, they will reach out to you. At the time of panel, if all of those issues have not been rectified, you will not go to panel. Your application will be deemed ineligible due to there being some form of liability issue across these taxation checkpoints. This is something we do in as well as require you to provide us with a tax clearance certificate, because the tax clearance certificate looks at very specific things. This looks at much more broad issues that your organization may have. So if you know that your organization has any issues, please get them taken care of as soon as possible and get proof from those organizations that they've been taken care of. At the end of the day, though, we want to make sure you're aware of all of this information. Next slide. So here's another very important thing for you to all take into consideration. Not any of you who have been grantees in the past are going to be confused by this, because it's not something that we've mandated in the past, but it is a mandate that has existed for a long time. There's been a state law, and NJSA 3415C-10.2, which mandates that all providers receiving state and federal grant training funds must be listed on the ETPL, the Eligible Training Provider List. This is a list that's housed by our COE division within the Office of Research and Information. COE stands for Center for Occupational Employment Information, and ultimately you have to get your organizations on this ETPL list in order to be a recipient of funding from this grant. What I'm going to tell you right now is, because this is a new requirement that we're enhancing our grant applications with right now, you can apply for this grant and receive this grant if you're not currently on the eligible training provider list. But you will have to, by the time you've submitted your application, started the process to get yourself on the ETPL. We provide you with some information here. We'll also provide you with a one-pager that will hopefully give you some instructions on what to do next. But know this division does not have anything to do with the eligible training provider list. This is something that is done by COE and COE only in the Department of Labor. It is not something that we have any access to. We cannot check and figure out why things are taking time or nobody's getting back in touch with you. We're telling you this because it's mandated. And like I said, we're not going to hold you to having this completed by the time you receive the grant, but we will hold you to a time frame if you are a recipient of this grant after that point. And we will also hold you to getting this process started before we issue you a grant. We will not issue a grant to anybody who hasn't started the process of getting themselves entered onto the ETPL. This is something that we're doing this round and possibly this round only. We may not do this in round two. I'm not sure yet. It all depends on what the department's decisions are on some of this stuff. But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing right now. So let me get into the slide. So in order to qualify as an eligible training provider, you have two options. Either your organization is governed or approved by a recognized state or federal oversight body, such as the Office of Secretary of Higher Education, New Jersey Department of Education, U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship, or other designated agencies. Or if you do not have any oversight body that applies to your programs, the provider must obtain what's called a private career school certification from NJDOL and NJDOE. PCS schools automatically join the ETPL once they're approved for that as a PCS school, but that process is timely. So these two bullets, the first bullet, if your organization is governed or approved by a recognized state or federal oversight body, if you have an approved registered apprenticeship program and that's what you're applying for this grant for, that you are all governed by the United States Department of Labor. Your programs have to get approved by the United States Department of Labor in order to be able to have a registered apprenticeship program here in New Jersey. So it should be fairly simple for you to get access to the ETPL once that program is approved by USDOL. Until that program is approved by USDOL, though, you will have it'll slow you down with getting on the ETPL. Let me start with that. The PCS process, if you are not an entity like that, can take 3 months, 4 months sometimes. It depends because there's a lot involved. There's 2 state agencies that have to uh, review everything that you're trying to do to see whether or not you're going to qualify as a private career school. So these 2 options are going to be kind of detailed more on the Center for Occupation and Employment Information website, and the resources and next steps that we provide you here on this slide will hopefully guide you on what it is that you need to do and what it is your organization will ultimately qualify and how they'll qualify to get on the ETPL. The COE website will offer you guidance on becoming and maintaining your status on the ETPL or private career school, and the applications are submitted via the IGX database. The website provides login instructions as well. So we ask you to visit the COE website and to direct any questions that you have to either the training evaluation unit at dol.nj.gov, or once you've started your application in IGX, IGX has a messaging system that you can utilize to talk directly with the COE division, and they will work with you to try and figure out what exactly your issues are. As I said, this division does not have anything specifically to do with getting you access to the ETPL, but it is our responsibility to make sure you're in compliance with the state law that mandates that you're on there. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to registered apprenticeship. The law does not state that registered apprenticeship programs do not have to get on the ETPL. What it states is that registered apprenticeship programs are to be entered directly onto the ETPL. So you have to apply in order for you to get entered. So ultimately, that's something to take into consideration and make sure you understand. But that's something that we have to go over here, and we provide you with that information now. Next slide. The required documents of an application, and all of these documents are going to be submitted in our IGX database, are the applicant information page, the counties to serve, where you're going to serve your participants, any previous funding that you've received from the Department of Labor, the employers or sponsors that are going to be a part of your program, gains deliverables, program narrative, implementation plan, sustainability plan, a tax clearance certificate, and your budget summary and details. The miscellaneous attachments page is a page that'll be there for you to provide us with any additional documents you want to provide, but it is not a mandatory page to complete and enter things onto. Next slide. So now I'm going to get in depth to some of those documents that we spoke about on the last slide. The program narrative will include an executive summary, which will be a description of your organization, provide any past NJDOL funding if it's applicable, the occupations, number of apprentices that you're anticipating serving, benefits of an RA program to the organization and the apprentices, career pathways and any certifications, licenses, or college credits that the apprentices will learn. All that information should be included in your executive summary. Next, you'll provide us with a page titled Mission, Goals, and Objectives, and this is going to demonstrate how your proposal aligns with what the Notice of Grant Opportunity is looking for. Then you'll provide us a connection to the local one-stop if that's applicable to your program. And then targeted populations, if applicable. This will indicate the anticipated populations for your recruitment, and it must include numerical projections so that we understand what percentages of your participants are going to be within each population that you look to serve. Then you'll provide a statement in need that's going to demonstrate the hiring need, and it'll include the occupations, job descriptions, and if it's currently on the USDOL approved list. If your program is not currently on the USDOL approved list and you haven't gotten it approved by USDOL, you should provide us with a timeline on when you're going to have that completed, and ultimately if you've started that process. Organizational commitment capacity will provide us with a description of the support, resources, and prior experience that you have and your organization has in successfully implementing programs such as these. And then your past performance will provide us a description of your past grant performance, including outcome data for the most recent year. Applicants with prior unsatisfactory performance may not be funded with FY26 funding, but it would be important for you to provide us with what you've learned and how that's going to impact your ability to be able to be successful in future grants. That's the program narrative. Next slide. All right, the implementation plan. Your implementation plan should describe how your comprehensive program plan will be implemented. It must include a breakdown of the customer flow and an outline of case management services that you're going to provide. It'll include the summary of your expected outcomes, which would include the occupations, the expected timeline for approval by USDOL, the number of expected apprentices to hire, an anticipated salary, and any businesses or organizational successes that are expected. They'll then, within that outcome timeline, provide us with a description of your anticipated program development benchmarks and milestones. Provide target completion of new program registration and hire date for new apprentices. Then you'll also provide us with a sustainability plan, and that sustainability plan should describe your strategy for long-term success absent of grant funding. Summarize alternative funding sources and/or strategies to continue activities beyond the contract period. Our grants operate on a reimbursement model, and therefore it's important to have resources in place during the period of performance to support upfront financial costs. So there's two pieces to this. The sustainability plan is important because it allows for us to see that you're going to be able to sustain this program absent our funds. If you cannot show us a solid sustainability plan, it will negatively impact our ability to decide whether or not your program is something that is worth funding, because we're not looking to fund you and it only to last for a short period of time. We want to fund you and hopefully show you a way to success going forward. So that's what the sustainability plan should be doing. When we talk about our grants operating in a reimbursement model, ultimately what that means is your organization has to be fiscally capable of fronting the costs of your program and then receiving reimbursement from us. We do reimburse you within the next month of you fronting those costs, but ultimately your organization has to be fiscally capable of that. If your organization is not going to be capable of that, you should decide whether or not this is a grant opportunity that is going to be in your best interests as an organization. Next slide. Evaluation criteria. All applications are considered new applications and will be evaluated based on quality, comprehensiveness, completeness, accuracy, and appropriateness to the NGO. It's a competitive process, and applications are reviewed by a selection committee using a pre-established set of requirements. Some details about those pre-established requirements are all within the Notice of Grant Opportunity. They do provide you with, I would say, a broad way of understanding exactly how we break down our funding, our scoring, but ultimately you can see that within the Notice of Grant Opportunity. Awarded applicants will have administrative responsibilities, including but not limited to archiving records, completing monthly reports, and attending required meetings. Next slide. All right, and with all that, I am now going to hand it off to Lauren Kremper-DiFilippo, who's going to speak about gaining access to the IGX database and the registration process. Lauren?
So hi everyone, my name's Lauren DiFilippo, and I am a contract administrator who handles PACE and YDTW grants, but here on the team, I'm going to talk about IGX with you today. So as Bill mentioned before about IGX registration, if you're a new user to the IGX system, you need to register in the system prior to submitting your letter of intent. because access to the application can't be provided to you if you are not registered in IGX. So you're going to go to the website on this page, the njdol.intelligrants.com. You're going to click New User to begin the registration process. So you'll enter your organization's information, and you're going to enter gains for the program and then hit Save. Next slide, please. So after you register in IGX, then you could submit your letter of intent. When you email the letter of intent, you will check IGX. We will check IGX to make sure that you're registered and ultimately grant your organization access to the application. You'll receive an email verifying the access to the application along with the user guide that Bill mentioned earlier to assist with the application pages and process. The email turnaround is generally 24 hours unless you send it on a weekend or a holiday, so please provide some grace on that. Once you receive the email, you can log into IGX using your username and password at the same website, njdol.intelligrants.com, which is noted at the top of this slide. Next slide, please. So once you're logged in, you'll come to your dashboard page, and under My Opportunities, you'll click Filter to open the options to search for the application. Next slide, please. So under My Opportunities, you'll see the Gains FY26 app listed, and you'll click on the hyperlink to get started. However, if it's not listed, you can use a filter search. So you'll filter using NJ Department of Labor and Workforce Development in the drop-down menu as the provider and Gains as the name, and then click search. Next slide, please. All right, so you're going to read through the text box of the program description and agreement language, and if you agree, you hit agree. But note after agreeing, if you start the application, know that you can leave and return to the application. It doesn't have to be done in one sitting, and you can bounce between the pages of the application. If you leave the application, just reassess it by logging in and on your home page selecting the application under My Tasks. Next slide, please. So applications and navigation. Once you hit agree, you now enter the application and you're brought to the document landing page. All the pages that need to be completed are listed on the left-hand side under Gains application. Again, you could skip around through the pages, but always be sure to save each page. If there's a required element missing from any page, there will be a circle with a exclamation point next to the page name, but if all the areas are satisfied on a certain page, there'll be a check mark in the box. Next slide, please. So submitting the application. Be advised that only the authorized official or an agency administrator can submit the completed application. When you're ready to submit, on the left, find the selection labeled status options. You're going to select application submitted. Note that if the document validation page appears, it means that there are errors and they must be corrected before the application can be submitted. You're going to revisit the pages and make your revisions, and then you're going to try to resubmit again. After selecting application submitted, a box will appear to confirm that you'd like to submit. Choose OK, or if you change your mind, hit cancel to exit, but only use the cancel in this box if that's your intention. Next slide, please. So some important dates. So submission of letter of intent and registration in IGX must be completed before you can start the application in IGX. Can't stress it enough. So the letter of intent, or the LOI, is due by noon on November 21st, 2025, and the application is due by noon, November 26, 2025. Final decisions on award will be communicated to you, the applicant, approximately 45 days following the panel review. Next slide, please. So some contact information. This is contact information for the New Jersey Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. James Manning is the Director of the Office of Apprenticeship and Business Services. Bill Sarbuck, who's here today that you've heard from, he's the Chief of the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. And as a general note, that all general inquiries can be directed to apprenticeshipUnit@dol.nj.gov. That's a shared mailbox, and you'll get immediate attention should Al be out of the office. If you have a question, it'll reach one of the other team members. So you're highly advised to use that email. Even go if you're awarded a grant, your whole grant cycle. Next slide, please. All right, well, that's all I have on IGX and the important dates. So I'm going to pass it back over to Bill Starbuck for questions. As it states, you can type your questions in the chat box and they'll be read aloud. And once again, as a reminder, the apprenticeship unit email address is apprenticeshipUnit@dol.nj.gov. Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Al and Tammy as well for your parts of the presentation. Couple points of interest when we say that those are the due dates for your LOI and for your application. There is no expectation that we're going to extend those dates. Please make sure that you pay attention to those dates and you get everything submitted timely so that we can ensure that we stay on time and get these funds issued out as soon as we possibly can. Secondarily, we are all aware of the USDOL shutdown at this point, and the federal shutdown as a whole, and how that could negatively impact your ability to have contact with USDOL to get your programs up and running. That is understood, expected, and we will be working with you as much as we can in order to try and figure that all out. At the end of the day, it's something we all have to deal with. There's nothing we can do about it, so it won't be held against any of you for the application process at least. What we would hope is that you'll provide us with some details within your application to explain what it is you're going to be doing and how it is you're going to be doing it in such a clear way that will allow for us to ensure that there's no concern or confusion by the reader on whether or not your program has the ability to be successful. Those are the applications that get funded most through these programs, and it is something that will hopefully come through within your applications when you submit them to us. So what I'd like to do now is I'm gonna look through the chat. I'll read the question out loud, and then I'll try and provide you with the best answer I can to those questions. Feel free to continue adding as many questions as you'd like into the chat, and we'll try to get to them all. As long as we don't run too long, I would imagine trying to provide you with answers to all of them. But at the end of the question and answer, like I said earlier, I will try to unmute you and give you the ability to ask questions verbally if for some reason it's not working, typing it into the chat. So first question. Sorry, there was a lot of questions at the beginning that are not really questions. Okay. Does the program depend on federal funds? No, this is completely state-funded program, and ultimately at this point, the only thing that's negatively impacted by the federal shutdown is your ability to reach out to USDOL and get your programs up and running. Total available funding of $5 million. Yes, that is the maximum we have for round one. We do anticipate doing a second round where there will be additional funding available. That's most likely going to be posted and out to the public sometime between December and January. If the applicant is a workforce intermediary sponsor that is outside New Jersey but has a signed agreement with a New Jersey-based employer, would they still be eligible to apply, or would the employer need to register or sponsor their own program? You need to have, as an applicant for this grant, you need to have any you need to have some form of connection in New Jersey. You need to have you need to have like a site. You need to have a location here in New Jersey. You don't have to be, your headquarters doesn't have to be here in New Jersey, but ultimately you do need to have a pre-existing existence here in New Jersey. So if you are not intending to or do not have that currently as an organization, I would suggest that you speak with that employer and that employer gets their programs registered and that they apply for the grant. Should a new apprentice be someone who is just beginning their RTI, or can it also be someone who has already started and is currently attending school? So Natalie, a new apprentice is somebody who is so there's incumbent worker apprentices, and then there's new hire apprentices. Uh, as an employer, if they're hiring them off the street and into their registered apprenticeship program, that person would be a new hire. If they were an employee for the company, and this registered apprenticeship program is going to allow for them to enhance their skill base and to increase their hourly rates, stuff like that. Those would be incumbent workers. As far as whether or not you can accept people into your program that were already registered as USDOL registered apprentices, that is not the case. You cannot. Gaines does not pay for participants who are already registered uh, with the Rapids database as a registered apprentice. The expectation is that you will be entering your registered apprenticeship after the start date of our grant program and during the 18-month grant period that we're providing you with funding. So the apprentice can do both, learn and work to get paid at the same time. Christian, that is registered apprenticeship. Registered apprenticeship is a model that allows you to earn while you learn. The employers are going to have some level of investment in this, and which is why we allow for there to be a 50% wage reimbursement to try and help them cover that. But ultimately, the expectation is that all of these participants, when they are entered into your registered apprenticeship program, they have a job from day one while they're going through the training program. That training program will include classroom instruction, which is the RTI, and on-the-job training as well. Will this recording be accessible online? We'll provide you with a link to the recording within our frequently asked questions document when we provide you with all of the information about today's meeting. Will I be able to get the recording? That's the same answer. Did you say applicants need to show they are in the process of ETPL inclusion when applying? We're going to check and see that you've at least started the process of entering into the ETPL. It wouldn't hurt for you to tell us that you've started the process and where you're at in the process. But yes, we are going to be looking for the fact that you've at least started the process if we're going to be issuing funding to anybody. Does being approved for the PACE program provide any benefit or bonus? It could possibly, if it shows a model that allows for your PACE hours to count towards your registered apprenticeship. That's something that could be the case. That's something you work out with USDOL. It also could be beneficial if it's going to be a lead into your registered apprenticeship program. So once they complete the pre-apprenticeship training program, maybe they would then enter into the registered apprenticeship program. That's something that could be the case as well. It is not mandated though, and it's not something that we give additional points for necessarily. Just to confirm my understanding, since we're a private electrical company with a registered apprenticeship program approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, that qualifies us as an eligible training provider. Therefore, I should move forward with the registration process. Yes, you should go through the process with the COE division of the Department of Labor, Center for Occupational Employment Information, to get yourself registered and added to the eligible training provider list. The fact that you have an approved program with USDOL and USDOL is your state governing body and organization that oversees your program, it should allow for you to have easy access and gain easy access to the ETPL process, the ETPL list. I will say there are people that complete the registrations improperly and it slows them down sometimes. So, you know, if it could still not be as simple as me just saying those things. I don't work in the division, so I can't speak to all the details about that, but I can just share with you what we've heard. What if our organization is on the ETPL offering a different program in which I'm preparing to submit for gains? You should go work with them to get this program added as well. Your gains program, like I said, because you are going to have a registered apprenticeship program that's approved by USDOL, should be able to be added pretty quickly. Scheduled well, it's not pre-reimbursement, it's reimbursement payments or payment in full amount. For example, after 30 days and the apprentice is still completing the course, would the full payment be provided or just what was accomplished to that point? So the reimbursement payment is for any payments that you've made already. If you work out a payment schedule with the training providers to pay them, at the beginning, middle, and end of the training in portions based on the person staying in the program. Once you've made the payment, we'll reimburse you for how much you've paid. It's not there's not really a set schedule. It's going to be based on the schedules you've put together with your training providers. Just note that, if you're paying out 100% of the RTI up front, we may question that and we may ask you for proof of that payment so that we can ensure that we're not paying out on something that hasn't been paid out already by your organization. I'm still confused regarding being a sponsor in order to apply. Would a state government be considered a sponsor? No. A sponsoring agency means that you have got an approved registered apprenticeship program with the USDOL. That as the sponsoring agent of this registered apprenticeship program, you would then apply for this grant. So it doesn't have anything to do with you being a state government entity or an employer. You can be an employer, you can be a training provider. There's lots of entities that are sponsors of registered apprenticeship programs. If you're not quite sure about this is probably not the right grant opportunity for you. Just letting you know. If you don't understand the definition of a sponsor, it may be hard for you to be a good applicant for this grant at this time. Just throwing it out there. So the organization doing the related technical instruction is the entity that must be registered for the ETPL. The organization that is applying for this grant has to be on the ETPL. So as a recipient of grant funding from state government or federal government funding requires you to be on the ETPL. Would the $12,000 per head apply to current employees that would like to become a registered apprenticeship, or only applies to new hires? Either. It's $12,000 per person that you're going to enter into a registered apprenticeship program. So it could be either incumbent workers or new hires. Somebody's not muted. Do you know when the Pace and Gains Round 2 grant programs funding will be posted? I answered that earlier, and I anticipate them coming out sometime between December and January. If the related technical instruction is done at various locations as is approved by DOH at each facility for related instruction, how does that get registered as ETPL? So, like I said, it's a little bit confusing, but the law requires that the person that's receiving funding from us be on the ETPL. So you, as the applicant for the grant, has to get on the ETPL. I can't provide you with any additional detail to that because I don't work within the Center for Occupational Employment Information, but that's the understanding that we've been provided, and ultimately that's why we're saying it that way to you now. On page 5 of the NGO, under the mission section, it says that this opportunity is for development of new programs or expansion of existing programs to new sectors. Can it be expansion of existing programs but within the same sector? Historically, how many apprentice slots are in a typical awarded grant? So yes, it can be an expansion of an existing program within the same sector. And as far as historically how many apprentice slots are in a typical awarded grant, I mean, we've had grants as small as 5 participants and as large as 500. So usually, obviously, if you're serving that number of people, we are usually not providing you with a maximum of $12,000 per participant. But at the end of the day, there is no real exact science to what you're putting together. If your program shows that it can be successful and proves a model of success, that's what the best applications are going to look like. Would round 2 be an extension for those awarded in round 1 or new grantees as well? Round 2 will be new grantees. It is not an extension. Can you speak? And it's new applicants as well. We do not allow for people who applied in round 1 to just apply in round 2 with the same application they submitted. They would have to complete a new application in round 2. Can you speak to supportive services that are encouraged? So because the participants of gains are going to be receiving a salary of a minimum of $18 per hour, the supportive services should be above and beyond the things that their salary should hopefully be providing to them. It shouldn't necessarily be providing them supportive services and things like transportation necessarily. I'm not saying that it's not allowable, but ultimately you really want to guide your supportive services to make sure that it provides them a way to be successful in their program. And make sure you're providing that proof. I can't really speak to what supportive services are encouraged, because at the end of the day, it's different for every occupation. It's different for every population that you'd be serving. We'd be here all day having that conversation. I think it really comes down to you providing the proof of the need for it within your application, and then choosing those supportive services that are going to be most needed, that are going to be above and beyond their ability to do it themselves with their salary as a job. We don't allow for you to provide anything like stipends and stuff like that. Within the gains grant. It's different than in the PACE grant. So are all grant expenses only allowed to be spent on activities for people who become apprentices after the start of the grant period? So yes, I mean, obviously there might be some like administrative costs up front that you might need to utilize, but at the end of the day, the expectation is that the bulk of the funding that we're providing to you as a grantee of our gains grant is to cover RTI or OJT costs. I mean, those are going to be the most expensive costs for this type of training. So, is there a waiver or other type of exception available for participants who live outside of New Jersey? For example, the NJDOE provides a waiver option for employees of New Jersey schools. So this program requires that all participants are New Jersey residents. So there is no waiver or any exception that's accepted for outside of New Jersey residents. This program is funded by New Jersey state taxes, and we want to ensure that it benefits New Jersey employers and New Jersey residents as much as it possibly can. Have the submission dates for this NGO been changed? In a call on October 2nd, the LOI was due October 24th. You're talking about the PACE grant, not the GAINS grant. Those dates are not specific to GAINS. Those dates were specific to the PACE grant, which is our pre-apprenticeship grant program. This is our registered apprenticeship grant program. They are different, and they do have different dates. I'm a registered apprentice that has not yet started implementing the business. Can I still apply? As this grant's not meant for the apprentices to apply, it's meant for the employers or the sponsoring agency, the person who has the program approved by USDOL to apply. So that if you are an apprentice, this would not be something you would apply for. If you haven't gotten your program approved by USDOL yet, you can still apply. We expect you to be capable of getting that program approved by USDOL within the first 6 months of the grant program, and start adding your registered apprentices within that 6-month period. I'm a New Jersey resident, owner of a small business in New Jersey. We operate primarily in New Jersey. I'm looking to hire my first apprentice. Does he have to be a New Jersey resident? Yes. Is the ETPL registration program specific? I don't know what you mean. If you want to know if the process is clear and easy to follow, I can't speak to that. I don't oversee it. I have nothing to do with the process. I'm just telling you, you have to get on there. It may take you a little bit of time. For that reason, this may not be the right grant for you to apply for right now. I do anticipate, like I said, having another round of this grant in the near future. So maybe it makes sense to wait until that second round. I don't know. It really depends on what you're interested in doing as an organization. But I don't really have additional information about the registration process for the ETPL. Can apprentices who were supported by GAINS 2024 round 2 resume support? No. Your apprentices that were recipients of and participants in previous Gains grants are not eligible to participate in future Gains grants unless they are moving into a new registered apprenticeship program. So if they were a registered apprenticeship and as an electrical, in an electrical program, uh, and it was a 4-year program and the old grant covered the first 2 years and now you're trying to cover the second 2 years with this grant, that is not allowed. But if they were in a registered apprentice in one program and now they're entering into a different registered apprenticeship program, it is possible. I would say that I don't know that we're looking to fund that kind of a program necessarily. Maybe if it was 1 or 2 people, but at the end of the day, we're allowing you to spend up to $12,000 on a participant. I don't know that it's in the state's best interest to now spend $24,000 on a participant to get trained. Why are they needing additional training unless it's enhancement in their occupation? In which case, maybe that should have been the occupation to start with. There's a lot of questions in that scenario that could negatively impact your ability to be a recipient in this grant period. But just some pieces of information for you to have. Tiffany, I'm sorry you can't hear anything, but like I said, we'll provide you with a recording so you can come back and listen to the question and answer section if you'd like to at the end. What happens if the apprentice quits 1 month in? Well, my suggestion would be to try and replace that apprentice. Ultimately, you're going to have funding that was attached to that person, and you can utilize the additional funding that was left on the table because that person left from that point forward. That would be my suggestion, but ultimately, it's up to you to decide which way you want to go about it. You may just want to give those funds back at the end of the grant period to the state and not have to go through that process. But that's up to you. We're a school, and can the full tuition be paid first as part of the pay schedule? There'd be a job training that would continue, but there is at least $6,000 start with enrollment. But OJT would proceed from that point as well as a certified license. So if your RTI program, they have to complete it before they can get that license and then start working in OJT, then no, that's front-loaded RTI and that's not allowable with this grant. If full tuition has to be paid up front when the person enters into your program, is it allowable? It's not that it's not allowable, but it could negatively be looked upon by panel members when they're looking at how you're going to spend down these funds. The expectation by us is that you're going to stick within your $12,000 per participant. Once you enroll a participant, that participant has to be enrolled in Rapids, which is the USDOL database, and that participant has to be both receiving RTI and OJT hours simultaneously. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit. When hiring an apprentice, how soon does he have to start related instruction? We're electricians. The related classroom instruction only starts in September. I mean, you want, if you're hiring them as an apprentice as the employer and you're going to have them on the job training prior to them being in the classroom at all, at the end of the day, USDOL is who you should be really asking this question of. They have an expectation that they're going to be receiving RTI and OJT instruction simultaneously. September's a long ways away. It may make more sense for you to apply in round 2, where we anticipate having a start date somewhere around June 15th or June 1st. So I would say, that's obviously much closer to September. And if you really think that that's what you're going to be doing, it might make more sense for you to apply in round 2. If you're planning on hiring additional employees in the future, how would we determine the amount we are requesting? So Victoria, the plan here is just that. It's a plan. You've got to decide as an organization how many people you want to, I guess, what you think you're going to be able to accept as the employer or find employers to place. At the end of the day, you're going to speculate a little bit, and hopefully you're going to be accurate, because that is utilized when we look at past performance for future grant opportunities. But that's the best answer I can give you on I wish I had a better answer for you. Is it possible to have two different types of apprenticeships occurring within this one grant, or would you prefer to see one type of apprenticeship focused from each applicant? So you can have as many apprenticeships as you'd like within your grant. You would you would within your deliverables section of your application, you'll list all the different apprenticeships. You will obviously have to get all of those programs approved by USDOL, and you'll have to register them and find employers with within all those different apprenticeable occupations. So, that's all stuff to take into consideration. Without employers to hire these individuals, it could negatively impact your ability at receiving the grant. So if you haven't developed relationships with employers to hire in all of the apprenticeable occupations that you're looking to train in, make that decision based on how you put when you're putting your application together, make that decision of what will make your application the strongest. Is there an expectation for applicants to include or conduct an evaluation or outcome audit? For the most part, all of our grantees are required to do an independent audit upon completion of the program. That independent audit is something that you should have on file if we ever are doing any type of an audit on you, so that we can refer to it and verify all your expenses and costs that were attributed to the program. So that is an expectation as an applicant for this grant or any state funded grant or federally funded grant. You can find additional information about that within the general provisions and standards assurances documents. They were linked within the notice of grant opportunity, and they are also going to be provided to you within the IGX database. They get signed off on when and if you are a recipient of the grant, so you as an organization can share that with any legal entities that you may be affiliated with to make sure that everybody's clear on the requirements. What if you hire an apprentice that already satisfies the RTI portion from prior schooling? That's okay. I mean, as long as you work that out with USDOL, and then I guess you're looking to utilize the majority of your funding from this grant for OJT. That's why we allow for up to $12,000 per apprentice to be utilized for OJT. So that would be allowable. Sometimes there is prior experience that can be utilized for RTI as well. You work those things out with USDOL as you're going through the process. Okay, I think that's all the questions that are in the chat. Does anybody want to be unmuted? If you do, raise your hand. There's a little hand at the top of the screen that will allow you to do so. That way we know who to unmute. If you want to type your questions in the chat, you can also still do that. Go ahead. John, you can ask your question.
Yeah, no, my question just is with the ETPL. Now, even though we receive the funds, we use other organizations that are on the ETPL, and we've always done that through the past grant. So I was unclear that we have to register.
Yeah, you have
as
to get
the
your organization on the ETPL. You're the sponsoring agent, John. So it's not going to be very it's not going to be very difficult for you to get your program added to the ETPL.
And that's done through IGX.
It's done through IGX.
Okay.
The slide that we provided to you provides a link. We're also going to provide you with a one pager on how to do it. But
Good,
ultimately, as the sponsoring agent, let me try and calm all of your nerves, because I know hearing this new ETPL requirement is nerve wracking for all of you. As registered apprenticeship sponsors, your program should be able to get on the ETPL rather easily. It's not going to be as big of a deal for you gains applicants as it will for maybe PACE applicants or YTTW applicants, any of our pre-apprenticeship programs, because those training programs are scrutinized based on who your oversight agency is.
Yeah, I understand that.
Registered apprenticeship programs have an oversight of the U.S. Department of Labor that is going to clear a lot of what they have to look at when they're making decisions on who gets access to the ETPL. All registered apprenticeship programs are deemed eligible to be on the eligible training provider list. So it should be fairly simple. Now, the only thing that you might run into, John, and some of you others who are going to be sponsors here, are you accidentally fill something out wrong when you're completing the application. Once you have a conversation with somebody, though, from them, whether it's through chat in the IGX database or through their training evaluation unit email address, or speaking to them verbally, they should hopefully be able to help you fix that issue
Okay.
quickly, and then you would gain access to it. Don't get too worried about it. It's not going to be that difficult. And you'll, John, as a prior recipient of our grants, you're going to be getting on there anyway. You have to get on there for
Thanks for
the other grants.
thanks for the clarification, because again,
No
I thought
problem.
that was
No problem, John. I know you're worried about it. You've got experience with that ETPL from back in the day.
in the day. All
You
right,
thought you
thanks so
finally
much.
got away from it,
Yeah, well,
huh?
it kind of was quiet for a while, right? All right, thank you.
No problem. Eliza, if you would like to unmute yourself. Actually, you can unmute yourself, Eliza, and speak whenever you're ready.
All right, I had a question. It was a little bit hard to articulate in the text, so I guess you just went over it briefly. So I'll just give you a little more detail into this. As far as registered electrical apprentices go, or electricians, I went through this program when I came up, when I started from the bottom back in 2018. The USDOL has a registered apprentice program for electricians. I think they have it for most trades. That includes registering the apprentice with the USDOL, and then there's the in classroom training, the in classroom instruction, whatever, that starts every year in September. It's a 5-year program. The 4 years have to the first 4 years, well, the 4 years of the classroom training has to overlap with 4 of the years of on the job instruction. But when I'm gonna hire my employees now or in October, the next time we'll actually get to start that schooling is September. There will be 4 years of overlap regardless, assuming that that employee sticks it out
Yeah, I hear
and
what you're
we don't
saying,
fire
but
them.
here's the thing. You have to get your program, even though electrical work, the occupation is approved by USDOL, you have to get your own approved program through USDOL with that occupation. You'll have to create your own related technical instruction. It could be with the same provider that you're talking about that starts in September, or you could go out and find a different provider that starts their program earlier than September. Um, that one that you're talking about is probably through the union, um, and the union does the training in-house, and that's where they do it. I'm not sure, but ultimately there are many RTI providers out there for electrical registered apprenticeships. There's not just one. And so, it's up to you to decide what you want to model and how you want to model your program. I don't want to speak to telling you how to do anything, but you should be able to work with your USDOL representative, and they may be able to help you with answering some of that stuff once they're back and working in the office. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. But, at the end of the day, the expectation here is that they're going to be starting both their RTI and OJT closely together. We don't want them to fall so far behind on their RTI, but they're so far ahead on their OJT. Now, there's in electrical work, there's a large number of hours of both RTI and OJT. So it could work out for you, but it really depends. And waiting until September to fund some of your electrical training, uh, you're gonna have a long time between now and September, and I don't really know how you want to break up your budget. That's up to you to decide how you want to do it, though. I'm not telling you can't do it. Just kind of giving you heads up. Like, you have to get your program approved by USDOL, and I guess you're the employer in this situation and the sponsor, so you're going to have to create that program. If you're going to work through somebody else's sponsorship, well, they should be the applicant for this grant, not you. You would just be the employer on their grant.
Got it. Thank
Uh,
you.
no problem. There was a couple of questions put in the chat. Is it possible to apply for multiple grants at the same time, such as an NJDOL Gains grant, NJDOL OJT, customized training grant? So first things first, there's currently not really an NJDOL OJT funding that exists in New Jersey. So I'm just giving you that heads up. You can apply for a customized training grant or a gains grant simultaneously. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. If the application, I mean, I can't speak for the other programs. I can tell you for those two, customized training and gains, you can apply for both of them at the same time. Not sure what SBDC workforce grant is, but you can check their grant opportunity and make sure they don't specifically state that there's no there's any negatives to applying for multiple grants. But we don't tell you that you can't apply for any other grants in our grant opportunities. I think you may have already said this, but this grant would not apply to an employee that is already a registered apprentice through our program with the DOL. Correct. This is for new apprentices. So they would have to be an apprentice who starts as an apprentice between the start and end dates of the grant period. It's expected that this grant's going to start somewhere around February 1st. So it would be somewhere from February 1st through 18-month period of grant funding. I'm a grant writer. The registered ETPL needs to submit the application, correct? Is there a collaboration option in the application portal? I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking here, Leslie. If you're a grant writer for an organization that wants to apply for this grant, you're not going to be applying for this grant under your name or under your organization's name. You'll be applying for this grant under theirs. They are going to be giving you access to their application to kind of write the grant, or they'll have you provide them with the documents to upload into the database, because most of our pages are uploads. But the organization that's applying for the grant should be the one that's registering IGX and getting their organizations onto the ETPL. Is a program required to last 18 months? We're funding you for 18 months, and ultimately you may complete faster than 18 months, and that's fine, but it'll still be an 18-month grant period. So hopefully that's clear. Tiffany, I see you have your hand raised. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead and we'll.
Hi, yes. You may have answered this already, but I'm already a registered apprenticeship with the Department of Labor, but I have not yet started implementing any of it yet.
Okay.
Am I still eligible to apply?
Yep.
Okay.
The expectation is that you're either going to create new or expand on existing. So yours is an existing and you're expanding on that. When we say the word expansion, it doesn't mean that you're creating anything new. It just means that you're adding apprentices to existing registered apprenticeship programs. Okay, any other questions? So with that, I'm going to say thank you all for participating in today's presentation. I appreciate your questions and listening and participation in this meeting. We look forward to working more closely with all of you, and as we move forward, if any questions come up that you have, you can attend our second session. You're not exempt from coming to it just because you came to this one. You can attend our second session, which is coming up here in the next couple weeks. I don't have the exact date off the top of my head, but you'll find it within Notice Grant Opportunity. You'll apply to attend it the same way you applied to attend this one. And then with all that in mind, like I said, we'll get out the information on this presentation and the recording probably in the next couple days. It might go out as early as tomorrow, but it might take us until Monday to get it out with the weekend coming here. Well, yeah, Monday. But otherwise, thank you all for attending, and we look forward to talking to you more in the near future. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.